Hello, I'm Fabio Teresino, Vice President of Integration Service Partners for Aviva. We are here at the Aviva World with Dan from Sky.io and Liz from Rockline. Dan, Liz, thank you so much for being here and for taking the time to talk to us. So can you just start by introducing yourselves and talking a little bit about your organizations?
Sure. I'm Liz Luft. I'm a digital manufacturing manager with Rockline. Rockline is a wet wipes and coffee filter manufacturer. We make 90% of the world's coffee filters, as well as we own many of the industry as far as hard surface disinfectants go
About
as well.
90%.
Yeah.
Not a bad market share. If you had coffee probably filtered with
a
with
Rockline
your
product, yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Dan?
Thanks, Fabio. Dan Engelhardt, I'm with Sky.io. We are an endorsed system integrator with Aviva, and we focus on a lot with the MES, model-driven MES, and getting customers' operational data prepared so we can put in MES so then we eventually can do AI, et cetera.
Excellent. Thank you. So a system integrator partner, end user, and we have a success story to talk about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So can you provide an overview about the project that you recently implemented?
Sure. Do you want to start with the history, Dan?
Yeah, I'll start. This journey started, well, actually, I've been working with Rockline for over 10 years, probably close to 15. And we did a lot of their OE data, et cetera, back in the day. And they were one of the first companies that adopted, the OE. We put it in, but what they did, which was exceptional compared to last, they got rid of the paper off the floor, and they made a conscious effort to go to the screen with the data and let's figure out why the OE's down. Okay, so we've been working with them, and this journey, particularly around model-driven MES, started 5 years ago, and we came in and consulted with Rockline for about a year and documented all of their processes, documented all of their desires, what they wanted to do, where they want to be in 15, 20 years, because this is going to roll out across their whole enterprise. So we did upfront consulting, and then last year we did their first implementation in Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Oh, one factory.
So far, one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And what are the plans for the future?
So right now we have composable MES deployed to one line at one machine.
Got
So
it.
it's starting very, very small and using the nail it and scale it methodology. So we are going to be going live on our next piece of equipment in 2 weeks. And from there, the entire summer is focused on deploying MES to that specific line, and then to all of wet wipes in Wisconsin, all of coffee filters in Wisconsin, and then going plant by plant after that. So it's about a 5-year rollout.
Wonderful journey. And something you mentioned then, there are many solutions there, right, that provide or claim to provide OE, right? It's just about measuring yield at the end of the line, at the end of the machines and so on. And measuring is important, but at the end of the day, just measuring does not give you any tools to effectively improve the process in a sustainable manner. That's the difference between a simple OE solution and a more sophisticated MES implementation. And I believe that was the first real world implementation of the composable MES from Aviva. And you have been working with MES systems from Aviva and other vendors for many years. What advantages, what benefits you realize as an integrator using the composable MES from Aviva in this project?
So what we liked about the portfolio, and to be honest, when we worked with Rockline, we did look at multiple vendors, okay? And we actually interviewed multiple vendors and I was a representative of Rockline looking at multiple vendors, and we chose composable model-driven MES. And the main reason, one of the main reasons, it was the whole portfolio. You have MES, you have quality, you have a lot of different, on the platform, you have a lot of different tools, okay? So that was one of the main reasons that as Rockline grows, they can use across the board. Now we have been doing MES, but with composable, now we have some templates, some standardized templates to use, and then that was kind of one of the advantages to move in that direction. And as far as I know, I believe this is the first deployment in the United States with composable model-driven MES. So we're on the wave with Aviva's latest technology, and hopefully that'll take Rockline for many, many years.
That's wonderful. And well, we all have been doing projects for years now, right? It's not the first way around the block. Every single project has problems, right? That's a given. So can you share a little bit about maybe one issue that you faced during this initial implementation? Like you mentioned, you start small to get lessons learned. So as you scale, you apply those lessons learned to have a smoother scale process. So what was the main lesson learned from this initial deployment and implementation?
I'll let Liz go there.
Yeah, so when we decided, so doing MES, having an MES implementation is something that our VP of manufacturing has been wanting for 17 years. And so being able to actually deploy it, and actually see it is huge. But getting there took quite a bit. Being able to talk with many of the stakeholders to figure out exactly what we wanted. One good and bad thing with MES is that it is super flexible, right? You can do anything you want, which means that you can do anything you want, and that means you may not get your project finished. And so being able to have a specific project scope and making sure that we stick to that ensures that our project stays on track. Additionally, another lessons learned that we had with Sky.io was Rockline has a ton of documentation. We have work instructions to no limit. However, that is not how we can convey what our business requirements are to Sky.io. So when we were first doing this implementation and doing the design, we just sent Sky.io all of our work instructions and said, this is what we want.
Just do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But
blueprint.
Yeah, we are the Rockline experts. They are the Aviva experts, right? And so being able to translate those business requirements into something that is readable, interpretable for both Rockline and Sky.io was huge. And it was a lesson that we learned in the last couple months of we need to better list our business requirements for what we actually want. And we just did the UAT for our most recent sprint just a couple days ago. And that lessons learned of how we convey what our business requirements are was very much proof that we figured it out in the last couple days with the UAT, that the UAT exactly depicted what we wanted to happen. And so both us as a customer and Sky.io as a developer were happy with the results.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, it sounds like you're applying some things that particularly myself, Aviva in general, usually recommend, which is have a vision for the whole scale of the project, start relatively small, prove the value, and then get the lessons learned, then scale as fast as you can. And to your point, start with the business value, right? And Aviva, with the system integrators, we can translate that into the technology that can yield those business values to you. And talking about business value, just from a high level point of view, what kind of ROI you project from this implementation?
So we have about 5 KPIs that we are trying to shoot for in year one. One of the biggest ones is 90% reduction in scrap.
Wow, 90%.
Yeah. Yes, which is a pretty lofty goal, right? But we feel confident in the system to be able to provide that.
To deliver.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Excellent.
Well, although this just went live and they're still achieving the ROI on this project, with Aviva or with Rockline many years ago, when the first OE system in, their CFO said it was a 17-day payback. Is what they said on the OE implementation.
In other words, what they are telling us, we need to increase the price.
Well,
No.
70 days ROI.
That's what they said. That's what they said. It was a quick turnaround because we got the information, and they acted on the information as opposed to, okay, the information, says your OE's down, but you got to close the loop.
Yeah.
You got to close the loop and then act on it and go out and make the changes so you don't have any more downtime.
That's wonderful. At the end of the day, it's always about ROI, delivering tangible value to customers. So it has been a pleasure. Again, thank you so much for your
Fabio, I
business.
did have one more thing.
Yes.
One of the things that I just have to admit, doing these major projects with customers like this, and we got the technology, and that's usually not the problem. It's the human intervention and the change management. We make a strong effort, and it was a big deal, working with them to adopt the new
Can't agree more.
technology.
At the end of the day, it's really about trust. And I asked about the issues, the problems, because like I mentioned, every project has problems, but the important thing is how your attitude, how you react to solve those problems together as a vendor, integrator, and end user. So again, thank you very much for your time, your participation today. Thank you for your business. Thanks for the partnership, and look forward to talking to you again after you expand the system and we talk about even bigger success story.
Hopefully at Aviva World next year, we'll be able to do more details at that.
Deal.
Okay?
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.